Today I was signed up to do a circuit race. Not on Zwift, but on the road. But it was canceled because of smoke in the air. Can you guess where I live? That's right, I live in California. Hey cycling community, this is Steve Grusis, the Cycling Greek. For the past few days I've been looking at the AQI readings. Now these readings I'm looking at are for 2.5 micron size particles, and that's typically where smoke particles lie in. The AQI readings for where I live are typically in the low end of the hazardous and the high end of the hazardous for sensitive individuals. At the race site, they were a little higher than that. Sometimes they were considerably higher than that. I figured if I wasn't able to do that circuit race, then I would go do this Zwift crit. And because I'm an old guy, it had to be a Zwift anti-sandbagging crit. There were 20 people signed up for this race. And typically because I'm 66, I like to look at the ages of everyone else that's competing. It just gives me that extra excuse. Well, as it turned out, out of the 20 people, there were 13 people that finished. So I usually take a look at the ages before the race. But since I didn't look at it until after the race, then I can only see those that actually were listed as finishing. Of those that have their age public, there were a couple of 30-somethings, there was one 50-something, 51-year-old actually. He was the oldest other than me. And the rest of them were in their 40s. I'm sorry, not the rest of them. There were about 5 in their 40s. So maybe there were, I don't know, another 5 that didn't list what their ages were. Of their pictures, they seem to be in that same range of the 30s and 40s. The importance of me doing a race this weekend is I needed what I call a tweaking race. The last week I had district road race championships, and this coming weekend I'm going to have district criterium championships. District criterium championships for the old guys, masters. And in my case, it's going to be the 65 to 69 group. I know my competition is going to be stiff, just like it was last week. I'm going to have a previous age group national champions in there. I'm going to have a current mountain bike national champion, and I'm going to have the guy that beat both of those guys last week. Fortunately, in my training, I timed things well, in which I'm peaking quite nicely, and I'm still improving. I'm hoping evidence of that improving is this race. Now, I'm not quite sure. That's why the title of the race. Is this a one-off race? We'll talk about that a little more later on. Typically in these races, I last with the main group for about a half of the race. Around lap 5, beginning of lap 5 or soon thereafter, I have lost contact and I'm either by myself or I'm with a small group of 1 or 2 others. Each race is different based on the people that are in there. This one, I was just a little more comfortable, at least when I compare myself to other sandbagging crits. And of course, being that old guy, I need all the help I can get. That's why I only look for anti-sandbagging crits. On ZwiftPower.com, where I'm signed up, they have limitations on each of the categories that you're not supposed to exceed. With this being a category B, one is not supposed to exceed 4.1 watts per kilogram and anything greater than 250 watts. You can do one or the other, but you can't do both. We only had one person that exceeded the category B parameters, and that person did 4.3 watts per kilogram and 264 watts. If he was signed up for ZwiftPower.com, he didn't make it over to ZwiftPower.com in those results. He finished third in a 5-up sprint. As I had previously stated, I was feeling a smidgen more comfortable. So right away I'm thinking, well, it can't be me. It must be the rest of the group. They're just not as fast as the previous races I've been in. So one of the things I was going to take a look at was, what's my overall power for this race and compared to the other races? Well, as it turned out, my previous highest power recently, since I've been doing this for about 4 weeks now since I started them up again. In a previous video, I talk about why I started these up again. That previous high was about 271 watts. This race for me was 276 watts, and I did 3.8 watts per kilogram. Now, the additional watts per kilogram were partially due to the few more watts that I was able to do in this race, because last time I did 3.7 watts per kilogram. That was in the previous race I had accomplished that with that 271. But I also had lowered my weight from 164 to 162 because I weigh about just under 162 now. You know, maybe I should go to the action on the screen. We had just gone over the brick climb and there was an attack, so we didn't have a chance to, or we didn't take the chance to rest. Some guy took off, another one went after him, and then we're all lined out as we're doing now. So now we're coming into the rolling section, and I was able to get back up to with a number of other people. Now you'll notice on the graphics on the right hand side, there are about 9 riders, and then there's a 3-second gap to the next group, 3 to 6 seconds. So unless that group gets back up to us, it looks like that we're just going to be the 9 of us that are vying for it. And this is the second lap, and we're just finishing about 25% of the race. So we have some attacking here. I was able to survive this attacking, but typically what happens is when I go in terms of just strength and just run out of leg strength, then I just die out. And again, typically that's right around the halfway point. So if there's any more of these attacks, then that's just going to suck the strength out of my legs, and then off the back I go. Then I'm going to start looking behind me to see how far someone is, or if I'm able to work with somebody to at least stay away from other people. I just jumped ahead to the right before the brick hill on this same lap, and I had positioned myself toward the front so I can get a little buffer as people go past me and I start to fall back. Now the guy in the black, he's attacking. That's Dan K from the US. He's almost 20 pounds lighter than I am, and he has 30 watts more in his FTP. He's definitely a strong guy. So attacking so early like that, and he may have been the one that did it the last lap, I don't know. But he's either, he's probably trying to just thin out the crowd and just have a few or less people to sprint against. So we're still chasing him. I am in about 7th position, 6th position right there. And there's a couple of people not on the screen behind me, but there's a couple that are about a second off. So unless we slow up, those guys are going to have a hard time. So now we're hitting the rollers. And as I stated in previous videos, that I seem to have a little easier time on the rollers. That's in most situations, but if people are still lighting it up and it's towards the end of the race or toward the end of when I'm going to hang on, then I don't. Fortunately, I'm able to make the connection. I look up there and I see we're toward the end of lap 3 and one more lap before we finish the first half of the race. Now, I'm not trying to do a break here. I just overshot, and I'm just dialing back quite a bit now. Pretty much for most of this race, I've been in 2 gears, either my 55-21 or my 55-19. I go to my 21 when I need to rest, or when the group is not going as fast, and then I can just take pressure off my legs by going to that smaller gear. I'm going to my 19 when I need to do more power, or when I am starting to overcook on my smaller gear and putting pressure on my aerobics, so I then put pressure on my muscles by going to that bigger gear. Of course, I can only do that for so long. That's what I call riding the fine line between aerobic and anaerobic death. Looking at the graphics on the right, we are currently at 10 riders in this group. And again, we started with 20. I have just jumped forward toward the end of this lap as we're entering the rolling section. This will complete our first half of the race. And it looks like I'm going to be able to stick with these guys for this first half of the race. Now, we have a couple that have taken off again. And that looks like to be Danny, again, Danny K from the US. There's somebody that's bridged up to him. And now I was trying to pull up to them, but I didn't want to use up all that energy. So I just dialed back a bit, let somebody fill in the gap, and I could still get their wheel. That saves me just that much energy. And also, I probably wouldn't have been able to do that until I finally got strong enough where I could control my efforts a little better. I have now jumped forward to later in the lap at the top of the brick section. While I had to spend quite a bit of energy to hold my position, I had to do that without the use of a power-up. Usually all my power-ups I use up on that brick hill. You'll notice that we're all becoming strung out. And you'll also notice that the person at the front that's pushing everything that everybody's trying to catch up to is again Danny K from the US. Boy, I wish that was me. I say, God bless him. So it's here where I'm thinking that just one more heartbeat, one more hard pedal stroke, then that's all she wrote. Then I'm looking to see who's behind me and see if I can stay away from them. Danny has a 2 to 3 second gap on us, and he also has another rider that's bridging to him up there, I think a couple, and one is called Keeping It Real. I don't know her name. All I know is that she is pretty damn strong. We're chasing, and there's the possibility that unless we catch them, that we're going to be forming a chase group here, chasing 3 riders now. And that third rider is Kasivi, and I don't know what country he's from. We did catch him, fortunately, at the beginning of the 6th lap. So now we just jumped over to the brick section, this time on the very last lap. And this is where the title of the video comes in. So I'm with these guys, and it's been very rare since I've been able to go to the last lap. I'd only done it once or twice before, and the last time was well over a year ago before I had my collar breaking injury race crash. And that's something at 66 or 65 back then. That's not something that you want to do. So I was thinking of when I should use my Aero power-up that I recently acquired. The problem is that I had a little lag in paying attention or who knows what, but most everybody started speeding up before I was ready for them to start speeding up. So now I'm just trying to catch people. That's all I'm trying to do. And so I have my eyes on this person in front of me, Daniela Andrade from Peru. So I figured I'll focus on her since there's no way I can catch anybody up there unless they absolutely die out, and it doesn't look like they're going to be doing that. So at a certain point, I'm thinking that right now she's just going to just watch my wheel and then just jump me. So like right now. So now I'm starting to put on more power, and at a certain point I'm going to hit my Aero, which I just did now, and I'm hoping I have enough gas to come around her and to stay around here. So now, as you can see from the insert in the upper left, in the lower left-hand corner, I'm just standing, trying to go as hard as I can. And fortunately, I'm able to get there before she can pass me. Even though the 3.8 watts per kilogram and 276 watts was a new high for me, recent high, I'm still not sure if this was a one-off or not. If there are 1 or 2 more riders like Danny K in this race, it's quite conceivable that I only would have lasted half a race with the group. Still, only time will tell. I hope you enjoyed this video and you got something out of it. As always, remember, comment, like, subscribe. It always helps. The Cycling Greek.